my home. Yes, I have to say it again. As I descended further into darkness, paradise was just a memory, as hell became my home. Hail there, brothers and sisters, blessed love, welcome to blessradio.co.uk. Yes, give thanks to the great controller himself, Brother Natty, and his son who keep things going here. A holy work beyond our imagination, going beyond the scenes. Enough great gratitude for that. Blessed love to all our brothers and sisters out there. Yes, today we're talking about Black Pound, Black Power. And we've got our guest, Brother Father Egan, in the studio with his wisdom. When we're not experts on Black Pound, Black Power, and we need your feedback, we need your contribution. So don't forget to call us on 079-444-31366. I repeat, write it down so you don't forget. 079-444-31366. Give thanks and praise to the Most High for every breath. Yes, Brother Egan, the Black Pound.
Greetings to the world out there. Thank you, Brother Tamra, for inviting me again. And when he told me the subject, Black Pound, Black Power, and Blackout Day, because we'd like to get some opinion and feedback on the Blackout Day. So hopefully, Brother Tamra has given you the number. You will ring in. One thing, I don't want to ever criticize another brother, sister's work. I would only critique it. That is hopefully that we can do better. So, Blackout Day, as we know, it was earlier on this week, we were encouraged to spend money in our own community. A critique would be, it was called Blackout Day. Now, this spending money amongst ourselves to develop our community, etc., cannot be a one-day phenomena. It's got to be a lifestyle. We need to do this just as you get up in the morning and put on your skirt, put on your trousers, whatever, you do black economy. Without this, at some stage I hope we'll discuss the benefits, and hopefully some people will ring in and give us the benefits of supporting our own black businesses. I read a great quote where essentially the brother was saying that, to spend our money with somebody else is to give them power. We're not empowering ourselves. And a lot of people say, why support black-owned businesses? When you support a black-owned business, you're supporting yourself, your family, and your community. A lot of the problems that black people have and we complain about is not because so much that we haven't got no money, it's because we haven't got no power. And anybody who understands how this world works here and now will understand that money and power run hand in hand. If you haven't got no money, you're powerless.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree that we need to practice Black Pound Day every day, in fact. It needs to be in our consciousness every day, not just once a week or once a month. The sooner we can get that into practice. But also I found that We, like the other day, I was out there with a brother and he said he wanted to have a cup of tea. I reminded him it's Black Pound Day, and we couldn't find a black, we went up and down the road, we caught buses and everything, trying to find somewhere so we could have a cup of tea. So it's apparent to us that we need more black businesses as well, because it makes it difficult on a daily basis, to simply shop black every day. It's very difficult at the moment. So we need more black businesses out there. And why do you think we haven't got any more black businesses out there than what we've got at present?
There are a few reasons. I think one of them we need to touch on, which is very important, is the lack of trust that we have amongst ourselves. And as it's been called before, the crab in a barrel mentality. There is that feeling that and this is something we've been taught. We're not naturally like this. We've been taught to discriminate, to put ourselves down. You follow what I'm saying? You could imagine, take it right back to slavery. All the people were under the same oppression. They managed to divide and rule with the house nigger, the field nigger. But when anything happened, everybody got punished. You follow what I'm saying? And now, we don't trust each other. And then let's just say that a business messes up. Now, instead of us saying, all right, John down there, he had a bad day, he messed up. No, all black businesses are bad. I can remember an incident where a young lady I know said to me that she needs somebody who can fix her boiler, replace her boiler. I said to her, I know somebody, Corgi registered, everything. She said, no, I don't want no black people coming to my house. I said, why? She didn't really have no reason. But anyway, she got it fixed eventually. And I said to her, sir, what happened? She said, yes, British Gas come round, charged her a lot of money, but it was fixed. So I said, who come and fixed it? She said, a black man. I said, well, there you go. I said, the brother I know used to work for a big corporate company. He's decided to start his own business. He's got insurance, etc., etc. But she's got that little thing in her head that black businesses aren't worth nothing. We cannot, compete with white businesses, etc., etc. So that's one of the things, the lack of trust and the lack of trust in that we can deliver, which is things that me as a businessman, myself personally, I know that I have to improve on because I'm not 100% all the time. Another thing is finance. Most of black businesses are started with savings or they're run on a shoestring because we could have the greatest idea in the world. When we go to the bank with all the documentation, etc., that meets the standard, I have been in this position, I have been refused.
And so have I, and we're talking about the black power and the black pound here, and the power is obviously in unifying that pound, because there's a lot of pounds amongst us, but it's not, it lacks the power because it's not being spent amongst ourselves. It's not, because unity is strength, and we need that strength. Is power is strength, and we haven't got that strength because we're not spending enough amongst ourselves. Also, we're not investing in enough businesses. And also, we lack strength because of the lack of trust that you mentioned and so on. And of course, I'll go further. I say the lack of love, the lack of care, the lack of compassion for each other. Like how we grew up back home. And even, when I was there in the 60s, we used to look after each other a lot better, neighbor to neighbor, family to family, much more than what we do now. There's too many people dying in a room, and it's not until the body is rotting, stinking, that someone knows that they've passed away. And it's a horrendous thing to say, but I know because I've experienced it with a brother who I thought was very popular, and he was in a room for a fortnight or more before they realized he had died, and So we really need to spend more money and also have more businesses. Now what we're going to do, we're going to, well, we've already got the money, so all we need is more businesses being set up. But also, we can't just be buying food, takeaway, and going for haircuts, because that's what we're known for. You know, we need to diversify
That's right.
more than that.
Me and you have lived at this age, right? Hopefully some younger people are listening. But, you know, me and you have lived at that age and seen our parents buy houses, right? Because of this thing they call partner, right? Now, that was a collective of people putting their money together, which allowed them to invest. This sort of mentality has stopped. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, we do need to unify and see our common interests. Because this is the thing, you see. I mean, literally, people cannot understand or seem not to understand. They may think to themselves that, oh, if I make Brother Tamra rich, I won't benefit from it. But Brother Tamra may he would, knowing Brother Tamra, make sure that his child is well educated, etc., etc., etc. He could end up in Parliament, influencing policy, defending black rights. The Indians and the Asians, right, they've put themselves at every strata of the economy, and now they benefit from it. You follow what I'm saying? Right? So, you know, we have to understand that you helping me up, right, is not, you know, something that just helps me. It will also help you. I mean, to be honest and truthful, if I become a multi-millionaire, I would start to build schools and colleges. And for my ego, I would call them Egan Blackford University, Egan Blackford College. You may say, oh, that man's flash and he thinks a lot of himself. But your child would be able to go there as Goldsmith. Goldsmith made that thing. He's been dead for how many years? Look how many people have gone through Goldsmith and made themselves wealthy, had a good life, because he invested his money to put his name on a building. He started to create a legacy. This is another thing that they have tricked us into. You know, there is a lot of money in our community. I've seen two brothers, right, whose mother died. Their father died previously. Their house was worth £3 million, and they sold it. One hasn't done too badly. The other one bought cars, flash women, etc., etc. That money has gone from the community, whereas they could have turned that house into 6 flats and been making money. You know what I mean?
Yes. In fact, I know some people now, instead of just passing their properties on to their children, what they're doing, they're putting the properties in trust or as a foundation, so that they cannot sell it, but they can live in it. Their grandchildren, their children can live in it, and for generations and generations to come, and everybody can build up themselves and get strong. I think that's a much better idea than to just leave it to, because there are a lot of hard work some parents have put into developing a portfolio of how many houses, and then to see a son or daughter come along and just trifle it away, in foolishness. It's very hard, but that's part of life, but at the same time, trust, we need to have more trust amongst ourselves. How do we develop this trust? How do we break those chains of distrust into trust? I mean, it's that's a leap of faith here.
No, I mean, yes, all right, we know that, and we're now discussing this, so that means we've identified the problem, right? We do have lack of trust amongst ourselves, but this can be overcome because white people, Asian people, the Jewish people, are doing business with people they don't even know because they sign contracts. So, business does not have to have, I mean, I'd rather do business with you because I know you, right? But it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, we just need to overcome this trust mentality, understand that, black businesses can offer exactly what other businesses offer. We don't produce. I'm a printer. I've got printing. When I say I'm a printer, I print things for people. I've got the same machine that the man up the road has. All right, then our machine, he may have £1 million machine, some of them, but I print. You get your job. It won't be no different if you go to that man up the road. In fact, you should come to me because at least you'll get a smile and I'll appreciate you, and I may even give you, if you send a printer to somebody, he's going to just print it. I'll maybe proofread it for you, tell you, you've made a mistake on that. I may say to you, listen, you don't actually need to print this sort of flyer because you've told me that you're going to distribute it door to door, so you don't need a 250 GSM flyer. You need a 80 GSM flyer, which is actually cheaper for you. So you'd actually also get some love and advice.
And what's your contact details in case anybody needs to?
Well, you can contact me on 07950326834. But, there's many businesses out there. And I mean, you've said that we need more businesses. I'm going to say, yes, we do need more businesses, and we need a lot of more diverse businesses. But very importantly, we need people to support these businesses, because even the businesses that are out there now are not getting the support that they need.
Yes.
I think we've got a call coming in.
We've got a call coming in here. Hello. 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 Can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Hello.
While Tamara's trying to get the call.
We can't hear you. Can you ring back if you can hear me, please? Hello.
This is why we need to develop ourselves and make sure that we've got the tip-top equipment. But I'm going to tell you now that this is another thing that, in spite of our lack of resources, some of our businesses are great in so much that they do work and manage to survive with the lack of resources, sometimes not the latest equipment, etc., etc., etc. So, we need to give thanks for those who are out there doing businesses and struggling against sometimes all the odds. Because, I can remember actually being in Bernie Brightly's shop, the Brightly family, and which he's one of the first entrepreneurs, a Windrush entrepreneur in this country. And I can remember the things that those other businessmen done, those other races done to undermine his business, from in the market, making sure that he couldn't get the best plant in, and etc., etc., etc. And another thing that springs to mind as I talk about that is watching how many people actually passed his shop to go to the Indian man's shop 2 doors away, and then they'd only turn up at his shop when they wanted credit.
Well, it reminds me of the fact that we have been suffering from low self-esteem and low self-worth, like as though if you buy it from a black man, it's rubbish. But if you buy it anywhere else, you're going to get a better quality or better service, and it's the same tin or the same packet or the same cloth or whatever. So this goes deeper than just economics. This is actually, there's a lot of psychology and and also there's spiritual malady and mental illness involved here as well. In fact, I mean, it's reflected in the way our youths are murdering each other. If you're murdering each other like that, like a brother who just got shot in the head the other day, suddenly someone said to me, it's a member of, very close to their family. I said, my, look at what a small world it is. And, with that sort of attitude, are we going to support each other? I've doubted very much if we're looking each other in such an angry and brutal and murderous fashion.
Well, I can't agree that, because this sounds like, this is one thing I'm going to say, that a lot of black people tend to say, oh, it won't happen, it won't work, whatever. Well, that in itself is a sticking point, right? Because, I mean, if the first man who decided that he was going to escape from the slave master, right, didn't make an attempt, you could imagine the rest of them told him, you're off your rocker. And the first one, he only got a mile. Till one of them eventually, might have cost him his life, but eventually they got through. So we are going to overcome all these problems, make no doubt about that. And one of the reasons, hopefully, will motivate all of us, right, no matter what age you are, is that you must think of your children and whatever. I don't want my children to suffer and my grandchildren to suffer anything that I have suffered. Now, I had to suffer that, all those teddy boys and overt racism. Unfortunately, that has changed now. But
Hello. Hello. Yes. Sorry about that. Yes, Brother Egan. Hello. Who's calling, please?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you, brother.
All right. Okay. It's Clive, man.
Blessed love, Brother Clive. Blessed love. Were you trying to get through earlier on? Because I know we had.
Yeah, I was trying on the other line because I realized it wasn't occupied, so I thought I'd just use that one.
Yes, brother. Thank you for coming into the debate, brother. What's your contribution?
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm honored and very pleased to see Father Egan in the studio. And I'm so sad because of the topics that you touching on today to do with the youths, and you're looking on businesses as well. And I can testify, obviously, because I've done business with Father Egan before, particularly on the Warblow, which, I mean, we're going back a number of years. So he's been with me at, I don't know, at many crossroads. I always turn to him as a black business, which I know he can testify to, and oftentimes he'll give the advice as to the directions to take, and also even advise me even when I put myself about politically. I have to touch base because as a senior member within our community is one of those who I respect his words. So I echo again what's been said. I myself, I started out on my journey of a mortgage by raising that capital from throwing a partner. So I know that at the end of the day, we have to rely upon ourselves. And I think with the partner, it's only when they realize that we were being independent that they then lower whatever the criteria was to enable us to then access more finance in order to then acquire a home for ourselves. But when that happened, obviously we suffered because that which we had in place in the way of a partner, it then transpired. I think there's very few people nowadays who actually continue with that practice. I know it's still going on, but it's not as common as it was back in the days because we got, I don't know, selfish.
I think it's been Brother Clive.
And that trust was broken down, So what I'm not sure of, though, is how far into the program you are insofar as what you'd schedule. I've just come from the Green because, as you know, I'm doing an event come Saturday. And my main concern or my main reason for phoning in again is about what is going to be the solutions when it comes to dealing with our young people. Yeah.
Yes.
Again, Egan would testify to the fact that he did a lot of the flyers for the Warblow events, which I was putting on up until I think 2002. And at that time, we had preventative measures in place that was providing for our young people, so they weren't killing one another on the regular basis as they had been done prior to this lockdown. So we are hoping that therefore that we seize this moment to make sure that we don't go back into that state of affairs amongst our youngsters. And anything that we can do by means of using your platform as well as myself and how we engage within the community, then that without a doubt I welcome. Being involved in grassroots politics and politics generally, it is a case whereby with our success, it means we can then make another step further up the ladder so that we have representation to cover all our bases. But I didn't phone in to preach. I really wanted us to interact as best as possible with yourselves in the studio so that each one, no doubt, teaches one.
Absolutely.
Well, Brother Clive, can you then, right, we know of your initiatives, right? I mean, we're kind of discussing business here, right? I mean, you know, would these young people be out on the street doing what they were doing, right, if we had more businesses? Because you see, it's very hard for some of these young men, especially young men, to get employment. They may have a criminal record, and even if they don't, the fact that they're black men can, you know, lead them to not getting a job. But if we had more businesses in the community, because I can actually remember, well, you know, that I employed a few young men who would not have got a standard job because they did have a criminal record, etc., etc. And I employed them because I knew them. I actually knew some of their parents. And I can actually say that now that all of those people, right, are actually working somewhere. You follow what I'm saying? One of them works with my son. You follow what I'm saying? He's still with us, works with my son. So, I mean, we need solutions. I mean, what solutions, you know, in very short, concise, can you offer? Because this is what we need to hear from the community, you know, and the community needs to listen to this. Solutions.
Yeah, well, I can only.
Hello. We can't hear you all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can only offer in part of the solution. Yeah, because we've got different skills. We also got different network. So it's for myself to offer what my life experience has enabled me to consider then as being a profession or a skill that can generate an income for me to fulfill my responsibilities. Yeah. So part of the solution is to be able to enable our kids to have the confidence in themselves and to be able to offer them an outlet. That's to say they'll go through this college, the institutions, the training, and at the end of it, there is a job. Yeah, but because you'd say society institutionally is racist and biased, it means then that there are certain obstacles that they have to overcome in order to maintain their own, what would you say, fulfill their responsibilities. My solution presently, obviously, where we're talking about, if we're talking about working with our young people, is to provide a safe environment that they can enjoy and learn to develop their own social skills, because that is far and few and far between. I think that was quite unique at the time when I was working, then stay with yourself, Egan, that you provided a service which then meant that whether there was a shortfall insofar as getting the flyers done, you was able to facilitate that. And also at the time, your own son was in that field of work that I was able to turn to, which enabled me to have a better access to him than would ordinarily have been the case. You see? So we need to be building foundation, particularly at this juncture where people are saying Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. It's always been the case that our lives has always mattered, but more so now, it matters in the sense that it can take out the truth away from the lies that have been fabricated and been passed down from generation to generation. That means now we can hold the system to account. But without the economic independence, yeah, we will forever struggle.
Yes,
but
we
at
need
the same time, the creativity, yeah, it's one thing that we have learned over the years, that Western society cannot get anywhere without us either working or our present. Even presently, because with the the medication insofar as injection, I've concluded that they have to inject us because they're mutants themselves, they're mutated beings. So they need us as an original in order to derive the remedy for the problem that they've created. So to a certain extent, it's probably straying a little bit away from the point. But anyway, yeah.
Well, Clive, brother Clive, I mean, as I know, you are now doing your RAS, which stands for, could you tell the community what it stands for?
Yeah, that stands for Real, Active, Structured, Supported Solution.
Okay, right. People out there, you can look that up on the web somewhere, because brother Clive
that will be on conceptoras at gmail.com.
Say that again.
Conceptoras at gmail.com.
Okay, if you've got a young man, young lady in your house, maybe you should contact Brother Clive, because he's trying to develop them. Because this is another thing, you see, we're talking about us. We're here as elders, right? Let's admit the fact we're elders, right? So we should be setting examples and, you know, trying to bring these young people along. That's one of the things, you see, that the Indians and the other communities have done. They fostered this idea in their children's mind. I mean, the child grows up and he sees his fit parent running a shop, right? His mentality is now to run a bigger shop and prove to his dad, oh, here I am. Well, that's good. I mean, unfortunately, you know, I give it to the African families. They have seemed to be doing better at this than ourselves, that we need to foster this mentality from a young age, that you can be confident and compete in this world, you know, and do business. Because we're here talking about business now. I mean, not everybody's going to do business, but we need some of these young people to do business and develop. So give thanks for ringing in, because we're not only talking about businesses that exist, we actually want to get people coming through that will create business. And I must say that the young people, and I know some excellent young people doing business here and now. I mean, the Black Pound Expo, I don't know if anybody heard about that, where some young ladies who happen to be at the present time in Dubai, just to show you that business can be done internationally, put on the Black Pound Expo that gave black businesses the opportunity to profile themselves.
Indeed. And Brother Clive, could you tell us the event that's on Saturday? Could you tell us where it is so people can make an effort to attend, please?
Yeah, this event taking place on Saturday is in Edmonton. It's the Henry Barron Stadium in Jubilee Park, and we've got a full lineup of speakers. More notably, we've got the Joy Gardner Family Campaign, which, you know, those of you who can remember Joy Gardner, she was the lady that was mummified at Ornsey Police Station, and her death was in fact even far worse than that fate that was suffered by George Floyd in the USA. So in no way is the UK innocent of the blood on their hands. And we've also got members of our community who have suffered that hostile environment called the Windrush generation, of which I am one of. And that because I was one of those at those early stages, it gave me the confidence in order to do things somewhat which again, Father Egan was party to producing the flyer that I had taken the picture on suicide with, because I was mindful of the fact that I was committing political suicide to a certain extent. But this event also, yourself, Tamara, we I'm hoping that you'll be able to come and do the spoken words, do a performance for us, because I do believe that the state of affairs presently is that we're in fact in rehab, and we need to come from rehab back to life. So I am very much promoting that aspect of our social well-being presently.
Absolutely.
We also will be having at least a dozen drummers who will be coming out in order to do libations, so that a number of our members within our community whose family and loved ones who've not had that, spiritual rites of passage because they've not been able to have a proper funeral, we'll be able to also make that contribution. The reason why we've chosen Jubilee Park at this particular time is because the young man that we're paying tribute to, Julio Gomez, he was killed actually on, you could say, my birthday, which is the 13th of September, as is the same as Stephen Lawrence. But his birthday is going to be on the 15th. So we thought we would bring that element forward and take a stand in the Jubilee Park. And our aim ultimately is to get a bench dedicated to him in the park, and if possible to put pressure on the council that we may name that Barra Stadium in honor of his sacrifice. So we're taking a stand as a community, and we're also asking our community, the London Borough of Enfield, as well as the wider community, to come and support and take a stand with us. We're also going to be having representation from Stand Up to Racism, Black Lives Matter, and also, obviously, the church. The church will be present also, because we can't deflect from the fact that God has got to be in the center of everything that we do.
Will there be opportunity for black businesses too? Because I mean, if you have a gathering and of black people, will there be an opportunity for black businesses to trade and show their wares on that day?
The only provisions we're facilitating would be, we've got a brother, Omawali, who is in fact the drummer. We're hoping obviously he will have his books. He will provide his books that they can be on sale. Aside from that, again, like the T-shirt which we have created and will be promoted, we'll be doing those. But this wasn't promoted, and it wasn't put together with the business aspect in mind, because remember, we are going through a phase where we have to social distance. Yeah, we have to take into consideration health and safety. So we're not out of the woods as yet to be free and at liberty to incorporate that business aspect. So I do hope that the community will understand. But for now, we really need to seize the moment and to say that if Black Lives Matters, which they've always done, if it is a focal point now, then we need to stand as a community, as well as a neighboring community, to make sure that the injustice, the institutional racism, and all the pains and sufferings that your parents, my parents, the ancestors on whose shoulders that we stand, are addressed once and for all. So in inviting the churches there, we want them in spirit, but we also want for them to be searching for the truth and make that a demand upon these institutions in order that our young people, because this young man particularly, yeah, he died in the stadium. Yeah, we did libation, we sanctified, but at the same time, I was again there last week, the week before, and there is still a madman in the stadium. Yeah, so the system is failing us badly, and these issues must be addressed, and must be addressed rightly. Yeah, so again, I'm asking my brother Tamra to come to deal with our mindset, which is coming out of rehab back into life. And then from your perspective, Father Egan, that you will be able to probably even give an overview. Yeah. So I'm busy working on the program because there is so many people that are going to be given opportunities, but they're upright standing and people who have got a history or who have made ultimate sacrifices. Namely, as has been said, there's been a number of young people who have died in the London boroughs.
Okay.
Brother Clive, I'm going to just make a point here, right? We're here talking about who died, etc., 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 which is very important, right? Because, you know, these people died, as you said, because of racism, etc., etc. But I'm going to tell you now that economics equals power. A lot of the things that are happening to us is because we do not have, I mean, it's not a one-sided solution or whatever, but our economic position, right, equals, you know, lack of economic power. I mean, you know, we have, you know, we just need to develop, as you know, Black Lives Matter, Black Business Matter. They run hand in hand. So many of us wouldn't be mentally ill, be subject to overt and systematic racism if we had good economics, which ultimately also means power. You follow what I'm saying? So
I agree.
we have to, I mean, here and now today we're discussing, you know, business, and this ties into everything you're saying. But I'm just going to say that if we're putting up a black poster that says Black Lives Matter, we need to also put one up that says Black Business Matter, because black economics equals black power. As we said, Brother Tamra said when he started the show.
Yes, well, I like to say that, yes, economics, we need to unite. And, you know, we forgot one thing. We need more love in our community, you know, because with the money that we have already amongst us, and with the talents that we have amongst us, we know differently that we ought to be a lot further with the intelligence that we have amongst us, etc. And yet somehow we're still at the bottom of the pie. We're still scrimping and scraping, trying to meet, scrimping and scraping, even trying to support a few businesses. I mean, to say really and truly, when we got a lot more than that. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, we've been reminded that as long as we, you know, do not put God first in our life, as black people, he was speaking to us, the lost children of Israel. He says, as long as you do not observe the 10 Commandments, And as long as you do not observe the Sabbath and keep the holy Sabbath day holy and honor it, you will always be at the bottom of society. You will always be chasing success and never quite make it. Even if you might be a man with a lot of money, we've got black billionaires, but they still don't carry any clout. You know, we just don't carry, they still can't enter certain places as black people, no matter how much money we've got. It's because we lack that spiritual connection that we need. I mean, although we've got a lot of these black churches and so on going on and so on and so forth, and yet still, it's still lacking. We need a real spiritual connection with our God, who will empower us in miraculous ways that's beyond our comprehension or even our imagination, that would be uniting and that would be prospering, and our children would be healthy and happy, and would return to peace and honoring their parents, and so forth and so forth. But as long as we lack godliness in there, we build the house in vain. We build the business empire in vain. You know, on all these things. We have to rely on God, not on the government, not on anything, not even on myself. I have to rely on God to help me, to help myself. And this is where we're lacking. It's never about these other races out there who say, well, they're doing all right and they don't have no God. They're doing all right and they're hypocrites. We were told, do not follow these foreign ways and these foreign gods and all these idolaters and this and that. You know, let's stick with our gods. Let's not stray away from that. But we've strayed, we've gone away, we've chased after all sorts of vanities, trying to be European instead of being Abyssinian, you know, doing our best to fit in a society that rejects us completely, and still struggling and fighting to be in there today. And yet, really and truly, all these things can be turned around simply by if we just turn to our Creator in sincerity, in humility, you know, in truth, you know, and all these other things will be added. All the things that we're looking to fulfill will happen. But without that, that's why it's not happening. I mean, this is my observation of the situation.
As much as me and you are brethren, Samra, I'm going to disagree with you.
I don't mind.
In so much that, right, I do not think that we have to be godly to do business. I'm talking about business, and I think that I'm a spiritual person. I'm not into Western Christianity, right? So I understand the spiritual talk, but I do not have to be spiritual to do business and economy. It would help and underpin it, but we don't have to. And what we must remember is that we don't want to put anybody off and think that you have to be spiritual to be successful, right? Hopefully, if somebody becomes successful, they'll have enough time to sit down, analyze. Because if you're getting up every morning and hustling and whatever, you ain't got time to say prayers.
Okay,
so
well,
maybe if we do, you know, fix our economic situation, then we will also see a spiritual growth. But I don't think...
Brother Egan, no, you got it wrong. You see, first of all, you've got to have the spiritual foundation before you build the economic. You know, this is the thing. We keep saying that when we get £1 million, then we let God in. You know, and this is why we keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. God is first. We have that. That's the foundation. Without it, it's the same thing when we're raising our children. We raise them up to respect God, not money. You know, money is a tool that we use, and we see money for what it is, so that we don't end up idolizing money. This is where we've gone wrong. We're not putting God first, and we've got our children idolizing Armani, Versace, putting their lives on the line because they want to raise £1 million and end up dying at 17 and all that sort of thing. You know, we have to have to get our spirituality first in place. We are spirits in the material world, and we're not feeding our spirit. We're thinking about feeding the body and feeding the brain, and with all these things, and we're not looking after the spirit, and so therefore we lack the power, we lack the strength, to just, to fulfill, to manifest what we need to manifest. And this is why it's taken us so long.
I would argue, excuse me, Brother Clive, I would argue that while you're 100% right at one level, follow what I'm saying? If we are talking about business, follow what I'm saying, right? My grandchild, does not need to go to church or anywhere to learn to do business. I'm only talking about in the business
I'm not
context.
talking about going to church. I'm talking about living a spiritual way of life. Something, they say we have to observe, even look at those other people they're prospering, like say the Jews, for example, they observe and honor the Sabbath. They're not perfect people. You see the Muslims, they're doing a lot better economically and all that. They observe. You see them all going to the mosque. I'm not saying that we all should be going to a church, but we all should be observing that in our homes, in our hearts, most importantly, in our hearts and in our minds. We don't need a building. We may, this is the Sabbath, let's honor it. Let's make sure this, that we do good works today. You know what I mean? We're not into any folly-dally today. Pure good works and relaxation, and don't worry about money for one day of the week. To say really, and that is glorifying our Creator. God, excuse me, there's someone on the line. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, greetings, sister. Can you please...
Hi, it's Teresa.
Oh, Teresa, blessed love, Teresa. Oh, yes, it's good to hear your voice, sister. What have you got to tell us today? What have you got to contribute to the table?
Yeah, I've been listening to the show, and I just wanted to add a few things, really. I think, in terms of the black community, I think one of the things that is stopping us from progressing is miseducation. We're not being educated in the right way. Now, this all starts from when we're in school. Now, I hear what you were saying, Tamara, about being spiritual and everything, but all around us, we've been indoctrinated to believe that money and power brings us a better person. So our young people, one of the problems with our young people is they see that, and even though they want to do certain things, they only see that they want to do it in a certain type of way. They want to do it quickly. We've become a kind of nation of our children of wanting everything now. We don't want to wait.
Yeah, instant gratification.
Yeah, instant gratification. So, back here you're talking about partners and things like that.
Yes.
We don't want to do, some of our children don't want to save. We just want it, we want it now. We want to get credit cards, we want to do all these sorts of things. We still have the same aspirations as everybody else, but because we've had this idea that, like all the other communities, Jews and other communities who do well and have businesses, whereas us, we want to tread on one another to get to where we get in. We don't want to be a community. I'm not saying that all of us,
so
but a lot of us.
I'm suggesting that we're too selfish. We're selfish. It's just me. It's all every man for himself. Is that kind of thing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we have become that way. It's not all of us. I mean, as you know, I've got two young black men, sons.
Yes.
So I know what it's like living as in the community with especially young black men and all what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything else. So it's extremely hard to do well without being victimized and having that negative attitude about society. My sons, they're quite what's the word I would use? They've become desensitized to everything and they're quite angry. So even though they are very ambitious, and they want to do well, but sometimes the ways that they want to do it are not the ways of the world. And unfortunately, as the other man was saying, when we go to the bank, they're not going to give us the loan because they're just going to take one look at us and think, well, no, you can't be trusted. And we've even thought that of ourselves. We don't even trust one another anymore because like that woman said, she went to British Gas because she didn't want to go to a black man, and then the black man ended up walking through the door.
Well, you know, we have
that's why we need to be re-educated.
Yes, we need to trust.
And learn to begin to trust ourselves.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. We need to trust ourselves before we can trust anybody else. So really and truly, it begins with us individually before we can come together collectively. If I'm divided in myself, then I cannot really unite with anybody until I'm united, spirit, mind, and body in myself. And
I mean, it is a work in progress. I mean, this is hundreds of years of what's been happening. To turn it around is going to take a lot of work, and it's not an easy thing to do.
It takes
but
time.
It obviously starts with the community, and we have to start.
Yes.
Like you said, it does start in the church, because I know that from the lockdown, a lot more young people are going online and listening to the word and listening to the gospel. And I think that is another way of getting young people to know the right path through church. We've got to find new ways of addressing our young people, and church is one of them. The youth service, even though they've shut a lot of it down, we've got to find new ways and new methods of reaching our young people.
Yes, also educating them through, our history, our culture, and traditions. So then suddenly they have that self-esteem and self-worth, and they know from our history and from our culture and from our traditions how united we were, how loving we were, how we honored our parents, how we looked after the elders and looked after the children, and and the man played his role responsibly, and the lady played her role as well, and so on and so forth, and it was beautiful, and we were the original and first civilization, and somehow we've ended up being looked upon as being uncivilized, and we actually came to believe it because we've been acting uncivilized the way that we've been treating each other.
Well, yeah, that is true to say, but obviously there's been so much things that have happened that that's how we've reacted to. We're angry, and we've reacted sometimes in a negative way, a lot of the times in a negative way, dealing with the things that have happened in the past and even now, and probably will do so. But it is a work in progress. There is a lot to be done, but we need to get people in positions of power as well, because things can't change if we're not in positions of power. Like in the government, we can't just change things on our own. We need the businesses, we need people who are high up, and we need to get those chances in order to get in those positions. MPs, and then big businesses, or even small businesses that come together as collectives, even what we're doing now, and obviously this whole thing that's just emerged during the pandemic, hopefully that will begin to bring change
solutions
in the world, in the community, because obviously it's becoming more, everyone's seeing it now. A lot of people didn't actually realise that they're actually doing it. Well, and that's the thing, because they've been raised that way, and they don't even realise that they're being, or even the white privilege. People don't actually realise that they have privilege, whereas we don't. So from we're born, we realise that we have to strive harder and do everything 10 times as good as, just to get on the same ladder. So, as we've got the drive, but if you've got to do something 10 times as hard, a lot of people are going to give up. They're going to say, well, I don't want to do this. This is too hard. I'm not saying all of us do that, but obviously, like you said, it is hard work, and we need the elders to help with the youngsters, to bring them up. But sometimes it's very difficult for youngsters to listen, because we've been raised in this society with social media, and it has an overwhelming influence on our children, more so than what our parents say.
Sister Teresa, do you think that your two sons, just using your two sons, have they had enough? I'm going to focus on the business. Do you think that they've seen enough business people and interacted with enough business people for them to think that business is the way to go?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, my youngest son is only 17, and he's just starting up his own business doing selling trainers and this all this sort of thing. So you know, obviously these designer shoes and everything. This is the way to go. Personal shopping.
Okay, well,
And
see, so then
from an early age, there's always had that entrepreneur. Both of my sons have had that entrepreneurial.
input.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not always gone the right way. I mean, my oldest son has, you know, he hasn't gone down the completely right path, but you know, he's got a degree. My oldest son has actually got a degree in economics.
Let me tell you something as well. You see, you've alluded to something there, right? Just to use America as an example, America is now run by 4 criminal gangs, and they rotate the presidency amongst themselves, right? So, I mean, there are a lot of black youths out there now who have accumulated money, however they've accumulated it. What needs to happen is that this money now needs to be put into the economy, because the energy that they're using and the brain power to run something like Country Lines or something, they could probably run a corporation. So all we need to do is to set that example. Do you follow what I'm saying? Now, how successful I am as a businessman, right, is debatable. But I must say that, you know, whoever knows me knows that I'm involved in a lot of flyers and distributing flyers, physical flyers, which I may not ever do it again because of all the things that are happening now, the growth of social media. But I can remember one evening my grandchildren said to me, granddad, because they know they get paid, so they understand the work ethic. They wanted to get paid, so they said, can you bring some of the flyers, granddad? I did, which is actually a problem because we have to sort them all out afterwards. But they then told me that they are going to run 3 businesses. I said, 3 businesses? They said, yes. So I said, what business is that? They said, Flying Squad. Their dad is an artist, so they're going to successful artist, so they're going to manage him, and he has a record label. Now, I thought this was great because I said to myself, he didn't tell me he wants to be a policeman. They didn't tell me they want to be a policeman. They didn't tell me they want to be this or that. Because as far as they're concerned, it is normal to do business because that's what their dad does and that's what their granddad does. So, I mean, all we have to do, as Tamara says, we need to be good spiritual people, grow our children to understand good, spirits and life, etc., etc. But here again, in this business ethic, we need to just set examples. Because if they see us doing business, as I say, if you read books, your children will read books. If you do business, it's more likely your children will do business. And you said
I hear what you're saying. One of the things that my sons always say is, I don't know, sometimes they say, because obviously you can work hard, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. Because my son, they always say, it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart. Because you can work hard and not get paid a lot of money. I see a lot of the children nowadays and the young people, they see money. I mean, success is attached to wealth, and wealth is attached to money. You can be successful, but it doesn't mean that you're wealthy. But unfortunately, this generation see success as wealth.
Well,
as
there
what
you
you've
are.
got as collateral.
Yes, well, there you go. And the fact is that this is where we need to re-educate our children in our homes as well as out there in the educational system, or even create our own educational systems, have these schools, little schools, and maybe it's just once a week, and we show our children, look, listen, success is about what? What do you rather be? Have 10 billion pounds or be happy? You know what I'm saying? Because really and truly, we know there's people with billions and they've committed suicide. They've been very, very, very unhappy or healthy. We have to teach them our health is our wealth. Happiness, peace of mind. These things are vital ingredients to be a successful businessman or woman in this world. You know what I mean? It's no point being all mixed up and having low self-worth, low self-esteem, and struggling with your confidence, and you're trying to get a grip of business. Let's start them as businessmen and women from a solid foundation, so that there's no doubt, there's no fear, and I know it's going to take time, but at the same time, we need solutions, and we're talking about instant now. We need us to instantly start running some little partners amongst ourselves, because sowing these little seeds will grow into orchards. We'll find our way. But the fact that we're not doing nothing at all, us parents and so on, the leaders and elders, we ought to be running some little partners ourselves and say, well, okay,
well, to be honest with you, it's funny you should say about partners.
Or that with it.
Well, we're going to have to overcome the trust thing, because partners, as we knew them, are essentially illegal. But I mean, we've heard the.
Well, I'm actually still in a partner. I'm still doing a partner, and I've been doing a partner when I'm running it. I'm in one for about 25 years.
Well, don't let the tax man.
And you haven't bought the house yet.
Sorry.
Where's the house? You haven't bought the house yet.
No, I haven't. But what I was saying is, one of the issues with partners, and even the one that I'm actually currently in, when the people get their hand, they're gone. They run off with their money, their hand, and then they don't pay it back. And this is one of the problems why a lot of partners don't exist anymore, because people run off with the money.
Well, I mean, that is the case. That's why we need to bring up the trust, and we need to bring up the integrity of our community. So when Brother Tamara's talking about our spiritual worth and our spiritual whatever, this is correct, because if that person did have some good spirit about him, he wouldn't have run off with the money. But I noticed that you are still in the partner, so that means that you have at least seen that was what that individual done. That doesn't mean that's what the collective is going to do. So
well, that's sure. I mean, the reason why I'm still in it is because it's somebody I've known for a very long time. I wouldn't probably go into a partner with somebody I didn't know. It's a long-term, family friend, and someone you trust.
If you was presented, because this is another thing you see, because we talk about this trust element, and there's got to be some sort of trust. But at the same time, if you were presented with a contract, right, a business contract, right, I mean, and you enter into them all day long because you probably, pay your bills by, social media, I mean, over the phone, etc. You don't know these people, but you do business with them. You feel what I'm saying? So, I mean, this is what we probably need to do. We need to professionalize ourselves, because, a modern partner could be that you join a business and buy shares, and then you are paid at the end of the financial year. It's the same thing. Follow what I'm saying? So, I mean, again, your son says...
Yeah, it's about accountability, though, isn't it? Because, the one that I'm in, when we first started it, we would just go to the person's house and drop the money in the letterbox or whatever, and that was trust. But now, you have to pay it into their bank account. So, it's moved on a level, because, if you haven't got, the means to do it that way. But most people now, they just pay it into the bank account, and when you get your hand, she transfers it into your bank account. Rarely does she come round with the £1,000, £2,000, whatever it is, and give it to you. And obviously, like you said now, it's kind of illegal to actually to run partners.
Well, so that's right. So why don't we, as a community, right, start to invest in businesses? Because, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, there are some great business ideas out there that are not flourishing for lack of funds. They can't go to the bank to get it. They can't, we haven't got that sort of money in the community. I mean, I know somebody who has I won't go into detail yet, but he has a great project, right, that would benefit all of us. It's going to cost £120,000 to get it off the ground. Well, he can't get that from the bank. The bank is, they won't even support it because they'd see it as something that is negative to themselves because it will take away their funds and, you know, their power. But so, I mean, you know, this is another thing that we have to think of, that we can invest in people's businesses. If you see a business and it's been going for so long, etc., and that person is willing to share, that means sell a piece of his business,
Yes.
10%, 20%, to raise the funds. So this is another thing, you know, we can do to better our business world and economy by actually investing in existing businesses or in ones that are, you know, up and coming. I mean, you know, Donald Trump he's the president now, and he'll tell you that, you know, he started this and he's self-made and whatever. His dad was a multi-millionaire, so obviously he had a big kickstart to get where he's going. You follow what I'm saying? And, you know, he was in a position to borrow funds, etc. So that is another thing that we actually need to do, is to concentrate on investing, physically investing in...
Well, maybe we should start Apollo and Black Dragon then.
Well, you know something, that's a great idea. Why not? And now that you've said that, I hope that there's somebody listening who will take that on, because you're perfectly right. We could have a Black Dragon's Den, and not necessarily where any individuals give the money, but you present your business and then the community invests in it if you are willing to sell a piece of your business. I mean, you could have a business with 100,000 shares in it and you're willing to sell 40,000 of them. You'd still be in control of your business, but you'd get those funds that you need. I mean, you know, these things, all we have to do is have faith in ourselves. I mean, you know, the spirituality Tamara talks about is very important, but, you know, and I'm not saying he's wrong, I'm just breaking it down into the little box that, you know, I don't have to necessarily be, you know, thinking in spiritual mode to do business with people, because there are many people who are going to do business just for the financial reason of it. You know, they're not worried about whether you're in the church, you're out the church. They're worried about whether or not they get that pound note. And I think if they're grown up from in their home to have the right values, they won't worship the money, they will use it and utilize it to have a better lifestyle for themselves, their family, and their community. Because it's no use just doing for yourself, because you're not in the world by yourself. And, you know, how the man next door lives impacts on your lifestyle. You follow what I'm saying? It's no use living next door to a house where they don't clean it and it's full of rats, because the rats will be in your house very soon. So all of us have to look at our spiritual, but we also have to all be interested in the black economy, because you said if there's nobody in power, in government, etc., there are no poor people in government. The people we see in parliament, they've got money. They had money. They come from wherever they come from. That's why so many Asians have been able to move into these positions. Even, you know, Diane Abbott and etc. They had backing, etc. So money and economics is important. As I, you know, would stress again, economics, you know, we said black pound. The black pound equals black power.
Yes, and the good name is better than many riches. Once you've got a good name, you know, you can attract money in abundance. You know, there are companies, corporate companies, even smaller ones, who will spend millions just to keep a good name, just to keep a good name. And we're talking about business here and about the lack of trust. And trust is a spiritual thing, actually. Also, integrity. We need integrity in business. This is a spiritual trait. These things here. So differently speaking, we need to express our spiritual self in our business for it to succeed, because we need to have a good name, we need to have integrity, we need to have trust, we need to have confidence. These things come from a spiritual height, brothers and sisters. They don't just come going in a boxing ring and get some, and then you're going to get some confidence. You need more confidence than that in business. We need the kind of confidence that is faith, that's strong, so that, when people think the ship is sinking, they all jump off and run off, and you just hold on and you stay on the ship and you steer it, and get to the shore. And while the rest of them, I don't know if they make it or not. We need that strength. We do. We need that spiritual strength, really and truly. We honestly do. And unity, we need that. And unity is a spiritual thing. It really is. And there are people who would say they don't believe in God, but they still express spirituality. I know atheists, and they've got more unity and more love and more care and compassion and more integrity than a lot of people who go to church. So but it's just about just being real. Let's be honest with each other. Let's throw away the ego and the pride and which brings the lack of trust. When we have a huge ego and a huge amount of pride, and we're really inflated, egotistically, it's hard for us to trust anyone. We see everyone like a challenge, like an enemy, like what does he want? What does she want? And that way we can't do business like that. So and all it takes is 1, 2, 3 of us together. Let's just practice it. And it's funny how that will grow. Then other people will start practicing it. I mean, I'm one for obeying the law and so forth and so forth, but there's no law against us saving money together to build something. And like our brother Egan said there, we can sign paperwork and all this and that and go through the solicitor with it, and even if that's to go through the court to get a stamp on it and all the rest of it to satisfy everybody, so we can all feel more comfortable, and we're all included, we're all inclusive, because we have a thing where we don't want to feel one is more than the other and so on. So let's do it so that everybody feels equal. Everybody feels, regardless of whether they put £1 or £1,000. Let them all feel equal and an important part of the process, Yeah, it doesn't matter how much we contribute, because if each one of us, we're contributing £1 a week into a pot, where that would take us every week? We'd have a few £1 million in that pot every week. Honest to God, we've got to be close to that every week. If all of us were putting £1 in that pot, and so that would be that would be £8 million for the month, and that would be £96 million we could have in a year by putting £1 in the pot every week. And you know what? And from there, then we can say, now we know what we're going to do with this 96 million here. We're going to set up this and that business. This would be a fast-track way of actually setting up businesses with very small investment by a lot of people.
Well, again, as you said, the spiritual is important, but we have to get that trust, because unfortunately there are people who have, just like Teresa said, people run off with the partner money. There are people who have started these things. So black people have had bad experience with people who have come along with this idea. So that's why I am saying that if somebody has this idea, I wouldn't just give a man £1 in a tin because he says he's going around to collect money to do community works. But if he had a project where he set up a business and it was legal, not that, I'm saying that this legal system is perfect or whatever, but it was legal. It had directors and accountants, etc., with a specific objective. You know, we're going to buy these houses, we're going to build a property portfolio, and every year you will receive your, you know, benefit from your shares. I'm more likely to engage in that sort of thing, and I think this is where we need to go.
Yes, encourage trust. We need to encourage trust.
We need to encourage trust, yes, and integrity and structure, because this is another thing.
Structure,
I mean,
indeed.
you know, a lot of, as I said already, a lot of black businesses are doing very well with the limited resources and, you know, etc. they have, right? But if we can just improve, because there are many people who tell you stories of why they don't do business with black people. I mean, I know a young lady who's 100% pro-black, and she booked an appointment in a hairdresser at a certain time, and she then went to a black hair seller, you know, somebody who sells hair, and she couldn't, her appointment was 2:00. She went there twice prior to 2:00, and she could not get to purchase it in that business because the person didn't open up in time. You follow what I'm saying? So she had to actually go and buy it from an Indian so that she could get her hair done. So there's lots of things that we need to fix as business people so that we do get this trust. But, you know, we need everybody to understand the circumstances that black businesses are working under at this present time. And, you know, if your phone breaks down, you don't go and kick down BT's door. Do you follow what I'm saying? But if I make a mistake, it's round the community. Egan done this, Egan done that. They didn't tell you that you went to an Indian man to print your order of service and he messed it up. And the funeral's at 11:00 and you got me out of my bed to print that funeral, so that memorial booklet, so that you could go to the funeral at 11:00. So I'll be slagged off for any mistakes I make or any shortcomings, but nobody will say that, oh yes, he done that. That was a great bit of work. Yes. So, you know, we need to appreciate our black businesses as they stand, even though we all do need, you know, as a black businessman, I'm telling you now, I need to improve myself, you know, and...
That is true, because in our community that always happens. The news publicise the negative, but we never publicise when a business is doing well. Just like what you were saying, and that's why I think a lot of people don't really want to go. Sometimes don't go to our businesses because of our attitude. Especially like I would say, I'm put off myself sometimes. You go into a Caribbean takeaway to get some food, and the way that they address you, they don't talk to you properly. They're pierced with you. They're not hospitable when you ask for what you want. Sometimes they even throw the money down on the counter. Their attitude, their mentality is unprofessional. And I'm not saying that all businesses are like that, but some of them do come across that way. Just like you said, the shops are supposed to open at 10, 11:00, stuff is still down.
But can I ask you a question, Teresa? Because this is another thing, you see, because we make these complaints, and you see, you're telling me, you're going to tell Tamara, you've told the world tonight, hopefully, right? But did you address the problem with the people who are running that business? Because I tend to. If I think it's bad, I will tell the owner that this person has not represented your business well, and also, if the person has been exceptionally good, I will also let the owner know. So this is another thing, you know, we're all complaining about these Caribbean restaurants, etc., etc. Well, what we need to do is to actually tell the people so that they can become better and get themselves into doing, you know, better business than they do at present.
Hold on. Hello?
You understand, Teresa?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Sister Teresa. We've got DJ Supreme on the line. Sorry to cut you. He's been trying for the last hour, I believe, and he's finally made it through my phone, actually. Somehow I'm miraculously connected it up through the board. You know, God said, yeah, just take that one and shove it in and it'll work. And it has worked. You see, we need God in our lives to direct our thinking, you know, and our actions. And, you know, I'd just like to say, DJ Supreme, before you go any further, before I forget, is that, you know, I remember when villages and so on, they identified the talent of that village, and they would all get together and they would finance him to go to school, or her, and then to university and so on and so forth, and then later on they would come back to the village with their qualifications and help to raise that village, you know, to a higher level, and other people's children, other talents were financed, were supported and encouraged in the same way. Isn't that something that we need to do ourselves, rather than wait on the system to identify their talents and finance them? Can't we finance some of our own young talents out there, or even older talent when it comes to that? Because we're talking about black business and black pound here. Yes, Brother Supreme, come in.
Yes, how you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, like I said, I've been trying to ring in on the line.
Yes, well, I've been answering it, but I haven't been able, you know, I wasn't able to get nothing. I couldn't hear anything on the other side myself.
Yeah. I've got to say, good evening going out to Egon. You're doing a fantastic show, you know.
Thank you, Brother Supreme.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The way you're both doing the show is excellent. And Egon, you touched on some points and at the beginning of the show, and I'd like to say there's the sister that called, that there's a lot of psychology that's being used on us, and due to our lack of knowledge and information, right, this psychology has been on us, and that's why we have the mistrust and we are dysfunction. No. So me personally right now, I think a lot of people are becoming awake, woke, and understand now. But like you said, the idea of just doing it for one day is just a drop in the ocean, because if you look at people that have made a difference, they've done it over a period of time. Rosa Parks. If you do things over a period of time, then they take you more serious. If you just do it for the day, they know, well, you know what? Yeah, all right, we lose today. They'll be back tomorrow, but they'll be spending even more, you know, because they're going to make up for what they didn't have that day. So it's really, really us being really serious about the black pound. And I was told, I have to research this, but I was told that there are 1 million black people in London, but there's 2 million black people in the UK. So really and truly, we're not a lot according to the
I think we're actually more than 2 million.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think I can't tell you the exact figures myself, but I think I heard that 2 million quote some time ago. So I think there are. I mean, you know, I'm sitting here now, and I'm the you know, grandfather for 5 children and 3 sons.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you just you know, exponentially, I mean, I think that there's here and now. There's more than 2 million. 2 million. I just want to ask another question. Now you've brought up the blackout day. Did you think that, because I actually met some people on the day and prior to the day that said they hadn't heard about this.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that the information was really disseminated to the community? Now, I've seen it written about in the Times, the Guardian, they all seem to know about it, but was it actually promoted to the community?
I've got to say, I one of the problems that we have, especially with social media, we're bombarded with loads of stuff, and even myself, I'll be honest, when I look in go in a group, and I see so much stuff just being put on WhatsApp, I can't read all of it. So I probably read the latest one, but in the WhatsApp, in the social media, you got to remember there's a lot of rubbish. So people might be looking at this as, oh, it's just a flyer. They're not. You get what I mean? Unless we have to look at our own TV stations and our own media that people tap into for serious messages. The way how this has been done, and I mean it's lastminute.com, but it has been done via social media. So some people would have taken it on, and some people would have just put it in their bin. So that's why possibly people have not really heard much about it. I mean, I saw it, I did see it, but I kind of ignored it. But then when it's very interesting, Eagle, when somebody sent it to me one-to-one, not in a group, I read it. But when it goes in a WhatsApp group with all the junk, I didn't read it. So I think the one-on-one to me, strategy is working.
Word
If you
and
go
mouth.
if you go in your contacts and like even Tamra today, you sent me the show one-to-one, so I realized, the show, Tamra. But if it was in a group, although yes, we are in groups, we realize that a lot of people are putting a lot of, a lot of messages and stuff. So, it gets sorted out. I would love, Egon, for me and you to sit down and do a documentary about West Green Road and black business, because there's black business down there. We need to sit down and like what this what's this thing that's happening with the Black Pound. We need to look at what have we got and where has it got, and people can be directed there.
Well, this is another problem that I think that we're going to have as well, because there's that question, all right, I'm a black person, I want to support black businesses. Where are they? Follow what I'm saying? How do I contact them? I'm not saying you can't, but I'm just trying to say, for a lot of black people, it isn't at their fingertips. You follow what I'm saying? I mean, if you're an Indian person and you was having a wedding and you went down to Green Street, everything that you needed for your wedding, you could get it. So even if you didn't live near Green Street, it would be worth you going down there because you would get it. So we need to know who's doing business, increase the range of businesses, because I mean, we're better than just doing hair, barbering, food, etc. And I must tell you the truth that there are a lot of diverse businesses out there. It's just that, maybe, I mean, I know estate agents, but, you don't know him because he's not necessarily, he's a black man running a business, but it's not necessarily, he sells houses, he doesn't sell Caribbean food. So, anybody can go in there. You follow what I'm saying? There's, people making lampshades, there's people making bedspreads, there's people actually making beds. I know a set of brothers, if you really need your house built from top to bottom, as a team, they will put it together. But we do need to propagate black business, and very importantly, because I think this is so important, we need to make it a lifestyle that you choose black businesses. If you want to buy, I'm not saying everything, because if you want to buy Nike, maybe you can go and buy it from a black shop. There must be some black shops that sell Nike and, designer wear. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. But we need to know where they are, and they need the idea that we must shop black where possible. That is what needs to be promoted. So doing a feature on West Green Road would be fantastic, because we'd be highlighting those businesses, and hopefully this would attract. And I mean, when we watch the normal television, I don't think people understand how they use television to promote business, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily overtly, because you may see a drama sequence and they've got a tin of Budweiser sitting on the table. That's an advert. And Budweiser probably paid to have it on the table. Do you follow what I'm saying? Right? So yes, we need to showcase our businesses 100%. So I mean, you know, if that's what you're doing, I'd be involved in that. You follow what I'm saying? Once it, you know, showcases them, and as I say, importantly, propagates that we use. Because I mean, propaganda is usually seen as a bad word. Well, propaganda isn't bad unless it's your propaganda. My propaganda is good. Our propaganda is good. You follow what I'm saying? So we want to propagandize our businesses and our business entrepreneurs.
Hold on, isn't propaganda sometimes uses lies? They say propaganda is, I've heard in the past, it's been related to lies, or it's just propaganda. Don't take any notice.
Well, that's
of
it. You see, that's why they will tell you that that, you know, they'll whatever, but they are, whoever they are in inverted commas, perpetually propagating their ideologies, their philosophies. That's why we do not trust each other, because they have propagated the idea that we shouldn't trust one another. That's, I mean, if we was, as you said, kept our spiritual integrity, we would trust each other.
Absolutely.
But they have divided us and whatever. I mean, as Brother Supreme says, there's a lot of psychology being worked against us. You follow what I'm saying?
Even now.
In our last discussion, we talked about the home, and this is where everything starts from. Follow what I'm saying?
But surely, being aware that there's a lot of psychological attacks, as well as spiritual attacks and financial attacks made against us, should we not use this as an excuse to be weak and to be fragmented, but use it as something to motivate us and inspire us to unite and be strong and trust each other?
But that's
and,
why
and
we're
to
here
prove that theory, you know, outdated.
Yeah, well, that's why you're here, Brother Tabra, to have this weekly debate to educate and propagate something different. You follow what I'm saying? You're a very spiritual man. I know this. And you are propagating that. There are people who have listened to this radio station and will say, you know something, that man, I like him because he has spiritual integrity. And hopefully they'll tell their friend, because this is all we're here doing. We do not have the solutions. We do not know everything. We only want to start the debate. Because maybe some people will, when this show's finished this evening, they will still continue to discuss. There may be people who've now decided that they will do business because it's getting to that stage where we can start to trust each other, etc., etc. So, I mean, you know, just by being here, I hope, because that's the only reason I've come. I don't know everything. I'm not a perfect person, etc., etc. I just want to be involved in the debate, because if we're not debating it and working out, we know the problems. You see, when black people talk, oh, they done this, him do me this, him do me that. Yes, we know all that. So what are you now going to do to redress the situation? Now, I would argue that our economic position is very important in redressing. Brother Clive spoke about the young man who died, etc., etc. There's a lot of young men out there now who are into crime, etc., etc., right? Which is actually harder than doing business. I mean, if you're doing a business, you're only worried about the tax man. You follow what I mean? But if you're a criminal, you've got to worry about the police, other criminals, etc., etc. You may as well do business.
Yes, well, you know, brothers, we've got to wind things up, because we've got the great comedian Linz. Is it Linz?
Lindsay.
Yeah, in the studio, waiting to do his bit here, and we just got to remember, that Black Pound is Black Power, and that we need to trust each other, get behind each other, and transcend our fears. Just one step at a time, and. DJ Supreme, thank you very much for your contribution. But
Okay.
Brother Limbs is there waiting
No
to do
problem.
his thing. So we're just going to go into one track before we go. Love, light, and
Big up
healing to the
Supreme, big up,
community
Yes,
there.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
big up to DJ Supreme. Yes,
We'll
big
be
up.
continuing the conversation.
Big up, brother Father Egan here. Big up, brother Limbs. They're waiting to get on set. Big up, Natty. Studio controller. Big up all the community out there. Blessed love to everybody. Love, light, and healing. Let's stand up and, don't give up the fight. We have everything to play for, and we have everything to win and nothing to lose. Because what we lost it all already. We've only got things to gain. So let's just gain by going into action. Yeah, action, because we're talking, but let's put some action behind the talk, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise people won't take us seriously, or we won't even take ourselves seriously. Blessed love. Blessed love. Yeah.
Six. Yeah, one. You see no more than me.
Yes, man. Yeah, man. Beautiful.
In London, England,
I think we
with no maid in sight, I was given the job, but not to my delight.
You have to give the other side.
Peeling
of the story.
potatoes,
For real.
gutting, scaling, and seasoning fish, changing nappies and making bottles, sweeping, hoovering, shopping, and laundering. I began to get resentful as I fell far away from heaven. At the tender age of 7, violently abused by my father,